Welcome back to session 2 of this course on improving emotional intelligence. I'm psychologist Dr. Tracy Moreno. In the last session, we assessed our EQ, and in the next 2 sessions, we'll focus on the domain of self-awareness. In this session, we'll talk about the importance of ego strength. You will need pen and paper, so if you don't already have it, please pause the recording and come back when you're ready. Ego strength is the cornerstone to having strong emotional intelligence. To break this down, let's first talk about the ego. From a psychological perspective, and put very simply, it's our conscious mind. It gives us our sense of self, the ability to know who we are and what we're capable of. The ego forms most of our thoughts, which contributes to our behavior. From a spiritual perspective, the ego is our humanness. If you believe that we are spiritual beings living a human existence, then the ego creates our human existence. The ego's primary responsibility is survival, which means it runs off of fear. The ego is that voice in our head that can build us up and just as quickly tear us down. The dictionary definition of the ego is a reasonable or justifiable sense of one's worth or importance. This is why we call people egocentric or egotistical. It's like calling someone arrogant, conceited, or cocky, prideful. This could also describe a person who has narcissistic tendencies. On the surface, one might say a person like this has an overdeveloped ego or a very high ego strength. However, it's quite the opposite. People who are smart don't need to tell people they're smart or prove other people wrong just for the sake of being right. People who are confident don't need to prove their confidence or point out when other people may not be as confident. People who are strong don't need to fight to prove their strength or use intimidation for others to fear their strength. So yes, superficially on the outside, it could look like high ego strength, but the harsh truth of the matter is that this shows very low ego strength. Their behavior is actually an effort to overcompensate for their underdeveloped ego. This means they would have difficulty taking responsibility for their own actions. They could blame others or make excuses, be unwilling to apologize. These are people who tend to be judgmental. They could put others down or be overly critical. They may always have something to prove. They may want to be the center of attention. They could thrive on words of affirmation or awards of achievement. They could have a need to win, whether it's a competition or an argument. They need all of these things to boost their ego because it's so low. They tend to oversell themselves or think they can accomplish more than they actually can. Conversely, people who are insecure and lack self-esteem, confidence, and self-efficacy have unconsciously, I want to make this clear that it's a very unconscious way of accepting their weak ego and often use it as an excuse to not maybe try too hard in life. These are people who have a tendency to be pessimistic. They believe everything bad happens to them, and they could have a victim mentality. This could be people who don't even really know who they are, and if they do, they probably don't like what they see. They usually don't have opinions to share, and they follow what everyone else does. They may like what other people like and act like other people act. They tend to be indecisive, avoid making decisions, and difficulty with problem-solving skills. They could lack trust in themselves. They tend to compare themselves to others and believe they're never good enough. They can be people pleasers, lack boundaries, and not be able to tell people no, which could lead to them being taken advantage of. Now, think of these two types of people as the two opposite extremes of having a low ego strength. Now, this means with high, healthy, and strong ego strength, it's somewhere in the middle of these two. These people with strong, healthy, high ego strength, these are the people who are cautious but confident. They talk when they have something to contribute to the conversation, and they encourage others to contribute as well. They have compassion for others, but also maintain good boundaries to take care of themselves. They can see situations from different perspectives. They know who they are and have a strong sense of self. They are aware of their strengths and their weaknesses. They accept themselves while continually striving for improvement. They can view failure as a step closer to success. They're able to take responsibility for their actions and apologize when necessary. They can accept compliments as well as criticism. They think before they speak, and they're aware of how they affect others. They are connected emotionally within themselves, and they're emotionally available to others. They know how to regulate themselves and find a balance to life. So go ahead and grab that pen and paper. And I want you to draw a straight horizontal line on your paper. On the end of the left side, make a note that this represents the people who've accepted their low or weak ego strength. And at the opposite end on the right side, make a note that this represents the people who are in denial about their low ego strength and overcompensate for it. So you can see the two extreme characteristics of having a weak ego strength. Now draw a vertical line right in the middle and make a note that this represents people who have strong, healthy ego strength. Right? That's where we want to be, right in the middle. Now make a mark along that line where you think your own ego strength is. Does your ego strength tend to stay there most of the time, or does it tend to move towards one side or the other under different circumstances? Usually we do. We have maybe a small range. So if it tends to move, I want you to just make a mark on that line indicating like how far left or how far right you would tend to go. Now you can see that ego strength is a continuum and can fluctuate along this line, moving more to the right at times or moving more to the left at other times. It is not fixed at one point all the time. We have the ability to change where we are on this continuum. We can do this by increasing our emotional intelligence, but we need to first identify what we need to change in order to change it. So let's move right into your therapy homework. I want you to write down and brainstorm the characteristics you have as a result of your own ego strength. This would be just like how I just gave examples of personality characteristics and tendencies for how somebody would be at the two extreme ends, and what healthy ego strength right in the middle look like. And if you need help with some of these examples, go ahead and just start the session again. And as I go through the examples, you can write down the traits that apply to you. This is the end of session 2. In the next session, we'll continue with the category of self-awareness by talking about our shadow self. In the course classroom, please ask questions and share your journey.